All right, here then I bring you Miles Adcox and this conversation on emotional fitness and why we all need to get aware right away. Well, Miles, I'm going to dig in with, to me, is a deep question. I do a lot of work in the insurance arena and health insurance and health and wellness. And one of the things that I am so aware of, well, my business partner, he says, the thing that's most dangerous is we don't know what we don't know. And, we go along and we're 35 years old, but we do somebody's blood work and find out, and you've got the genetics right now of a 55-year-old. Things are not doing well here. Or the opposite, you're 55 and we do it and gosh, your measurements, you're like a 30-year-old, but you don't know. Well, here we're all going along with possible knowledge even of emotional wellness or not. But I think, gosh, from the most, as I read, I go through your stuff, I think we're probably pretty oblivious. And what I want to know is what do we miss? What's the cost of our unawareness of our emotional fitness, our emotional unwellness in today's culture?
Well, I mean, it's big. I mean, I get to see it up close and personal, meaning getting the opportunity to walk with a couple thousand people a year. To me, it's a lot. I get the opportunity to see a lot of people who have, it's pretty normal that we neglect that. Even those of us, I think, who pursue it and have self-awareness are susceptible, meaning I'm in this space professionally. I also believe personally in pursuing emotional wellness and emotional health, and I even neglect it. And I think it's because we're in a desert, in a sense, as I would describe our culture, that doesn't offer a lot of support, encouragement, or opportunity for people to pursue that as a normal way of evolving into a healthy version of who we are. It's something that is set. The way it happens now is it's either here's what's wrong with you that you go try to find this service and tune up, or it's people write it off as self-care. And it's more than that. I mean, it is our absolute, I think emotional health is important as physical health, and I don't know that you can really separate the two. So more specifically, we see compounded stress or the inability to regulate or stay grounded affect almost every area of your health. And I think we're just learning actually what it does and what health factors it contributes to. But we know, neglecting our emotional health has just as much ability to kill you as neglecting your physical health if we went all the way to the extreme. But on the surface, it's just missing out on what I have experienced to be a much more deeper, intimate, connected life. And that's the part I wish people could get. Now, granted, I want everybody to be healthy and live a long life. But if everybody had the opportunity to experience life in a present, self-aware way, then we end up talking to people about problems instead of talking about people. And there's so many other things, but it's just the benefits are limitless.
Well, okay, I got some questions on that, but I guess it would behoove me for myself and for the audience to let you give somewhat of a definition of what you mean by emotional health and emotional fitness. And I'm especially interested in that because I know you you delineate somewhat that from emotional intelligence, which is definitely, matter of fact, before I really got into your stuff and I was just kind of giving some definitions for the show, I think I wrote emotional intelligence, and then I saw you make a segregation from that somewhat. And, so I want to hear that. Yeah. Cause I've heard emotional intelligence, EQ, things like that. And you seem to be in a different space. So tell us define emotional health and fitness for us.
Well, I'm not necessarily in a different space, and I love the people that came before me that have done way more work than I have on both the research side and have written about it more than I have, meaning EQ and emotional intelligence. I really value that as a body of work.
Okay.
I just think we have to always try to think how we innovate and move what we value into a digestible thing that culture can consume. Because at this point, again, even with some of the pioneers that did great work around it, people still weren't grabbing it at the level I think it needed to be paid attention to. So I just pivoted a little bit to try to make it more. First, it was for me, because honestly, I'm in this space. I've primarily worked with people who needed it. Granted, we all need it, but I always wondered, why doesn't everybody get an opportunity to deserve this? Mm-hmm. And how could you package it in a way where people could hear it, where people could consume it, and people wanted to be a part of it? So I started with me. And because I was one of those people that would do, and again, being in the therapeutic space, I would do therapy when I felt like I needed it, mm-hmm. and check it off the box, and then not return to it until life offered another opportunity for adversity or stress or whatever. And then I would circle back to coaching or therapy or something. And I thought, why is that the case? And what would happen if I were preventative in nature and already were open and had an outlet when adversity comes? Could I handle it better? And I discovered that I could, that if I just kept a consistent practice and not made it an annual event, then it would work for me and others better. And I started seeing that in the people that we serve too. And that's why I like calling it emotional fitness instead of some of the other ways it's been framed up, simply because fitness is something that we have to sustain, not something we arrive at. And I think the same applies emotionally. And I would define emotional fitness, which is very similar to the way you might see emotional intelligence defined, as power, understanding, strength, and empathy around your mood and feelings towards yourself and others. So in a sense, it's just knowing yourself better, knowing the difference between emotions and feelings and where they are and where you're feeling them and how they impact how you relate to the world.
Well, I appreciate how you started that off with just saying, making it digestible so that we can better consume it, because we know we're awash in information and in knowledge, but what do we really consume? So being in the personal development arena really all my life, since I was a kid, that's what my dad's always been involved in. And reading How to Win Friends and Influence People and PR stuff and being aware of others and, morphing to fit them. And it was all this. It can almost sound manipulative, but I knew both sides of that. Regardless, though, I feel like I still this topic has never really come to the surface. I've read it here and there. I've heard other people talk about it, but as a tangible, digestible, back to what you said, thing to look at, I've not seen it rise to the surface. And it's later in life now. I'm 48 now, that I have probably in the past 5 years that I've even become aware of my own deficits in emotional health and understanding my own, as a counselor said, my own emotional dashboard. Kevin, you have one and you don't pay attention to it. And the only one is this one, emotion, which may be anger. There's a lot of them around that. And I'm oblivious. And especially then understanding in intimate relationships how to have compassion for my wife, my kids, and others when I don't have emotional awareness, fitness, health. And do you feel like the Pied Piper out there to some degree of trying to say, not that you're the only one that's ever talked about it, but saying, well, folks, we're not giving this the gravity that it needs?
Well, and yes and no. I mean, there are a lot of great people talking about it, and I appreciate your transparency there in your own process, because I can totally relate to it. I've learned in this process that there is one thing I can change, and that's me. And hopefully by becoming a better version of me, I can influence people, culture, the things that I get a chance to be involved with in a different and more effective way. And I think the therapeutic and behavioral health, mental health, counseling, whatever you want to call it, if you bundle us all together in a helping profession, I think for a long time we've microscoped people as the problem and us as the experts. And I think we've gotten it backwards.